Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings, Danny and Friends SportsWrap. It's always presented by Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area, and they will treat you right. And just like the sports world treated us right, me right, whoever you fall into the category of, immersed, sort of spitballing, kind of, sort of paying attention, whatever it was on this hot summer weekend, there was plenty to go into and unpack, and pretty remarkably, I think I'll be able to do it all. We'll see. I mean, you're not going to get 8 minutes about every topic, that's for sure, but we're going to talk a lot about a lot of different things, and usually we don't put one of our friends to work 2 weeks in a row, but David Lesky from Inside the Crown is going to talk baseball with us today because, hey, it's the All-Star break, and the Royals made a pretty big trade, and Bobby Witt's in the Home Run Derby, and the Royals had a showdown series with the Red Sox. That didn't go so well, but the first half, to me, an unmitigated success story despite the 2 losses to close the first half to the Red Sox. We'll talk about all of that with David Lesky. I'll handle our baseball roundup at the All-Star break, checking out the pulse of teams as they head towards their 100th game of the season. And it was an unbelievably huge soccer weekend, if that is your thing. Here in the United States, well, we had the good and the bad of it. The good was Sporting Kansas City. They've won 3 straight games, including one in the U.S. Open Cup. They're within 7 points of a playoff spot. In the Copa America tournament, the game was a pretty exciting one as Argentina took the title over Colombia, but most of the attention, and I think rightly so, really, unfortunately, was on the total lack of crowd control as the match was delayed by 77 minutes. Fans rushed the gates. They couldn't do anything about it. They basically dropped the gates and let a bunch of people in. Then they wouldn't leave, even though they didn't have tickets, and people with tickets couldn't sit, and so on and so forth. And this venue will host 7 games in the World Cup next time around. Somehow, over in Germany, where the European Championships were scintillating from start to finish, and a final was deserved of that tournament, as Spain won late against England, continuing England's misery of 58 years without a major title, but somehow across 10 venues with a bunch of European soccer hooligans carousing and drinking beer and doing everything else, they didn't have any incidents like that. And just inexcusable in Miami, and they deserve every bit of criticism that they are getting as well. How about adding more? Spain wins the European Championships. Spain wins Wimbledon as Carlos Alcaraz puts on a virtuoso performance and stamps himself as number 1 in the world with a bullet as he routs the veteran, venerable, unbelievable, best of all time perhaps, Novak Djokovic in straight sets, and looked fantastic doing it. Unbelievable shots, unbelievable shot making. And speaking of that, we had an emotional finish in the golf. Yes, it's Open Championship week, but the Scottish Open is now played right before it and has produced great dramatics. Rory McIlroy with a dramatic win last year, and Robert McIntyre, his home country victory, one that he puts right at the top of the list, and he has a fantastic finish, including a 20-plus birdie putt on the last hole to win the Scottish Open. That was an amazing thing, and all that, plus the Chiefs go to camp. I think that's probably just about the sum and substance of what I'll say about that. But anyway, all of that wrapped into one on Monday Musings, Danny and Friends Sports Wrap. It's presented by Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Let's get it rolling with David Lesky Inside the Crown coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Always great to catch up with Dr. Brad Whittle of Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Everybody wants to make every year a great one mentally and physically, and certainly ASFCA can help in that regard.
Chiropractic, acupuncture, physiotherapies. We're going to address the body and the mind to keep you in great shape. With winter moving into spring, we don't want to have the opportunity to get hurt or to be slow and not do what we used to do, right?
Absolutely right, and you can do that in a variety of ways.
we can. We love looking at the body and how it moves, looking at the posture and how it holds us to be strong, to be safe, and really to help us do those things we love to do.
The wide variety and range of services you can get helps in that regard at Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. 7 locations all around the Kansas City area. Find the one that's most convenient for you. And for more information, visit asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny.
Did you experience hail damage last year and never got the work done? Most insurance companies only give you a year to get the roof fixed. And if you don't get it done, you could possibly not be compensated in full for the replacement of your roof. If you've been procrastinating getting that damaged roof taken care of, give us a call at 913-257-5426, and we'll send out an expert to help you through the process. We're never pushy, we're just here to help. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business to Kansas City's #1 variety podcast, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you. Welcome back, and it's a gigantic sports weekend aftermath, but we've got a lot straight ahead. We've got a lot to reflect on, and what's a better time to visit again with David Lesky from Inside the Crown. Don't often, as I said in the open, put our guys to work 2 weeks in a row, but it was certainly appropriate to do so. We had a big series in Boston. We have the All-Star break. We have the Home Run Derby. We got a pretty significant trade. We got a draft choice. We got a lot, David.
A lot going on. Yeah, it was a big weekend.
Yeah, to say the least. The futures game was played as well, if people are into that. And, when your team's playing well, that seems a little less significant. Let's start with the weekend. Obviously, on Friday night, the Royals got another great pitching performance from Cole Reagans, and they won a nice one against the Red Sox, setting up the possibility that they were going to be in wild card position after the weekend. Well, it kind of ended with a thud. But we'll get to that series in specific a little bit in a minute. But overall, 52 wins at the All-Star break. This is an absolute rousing success despite the last couple days of the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they had a little bit of a lull in the middle. They had that rough stretch that included the 4 series against first-place teams, but they bounced back after that. I mean, they finished the first half. I hate calling it the first half, but there's no better way to say it.
Right.
It is what it is. They finished 11-12 in the last 23 games. They started to play better toward the end until the last couple of days. I wrote it this morning. If you ask, I kind of hate this, but I also kind of love this. If you go back to March 15th, are you thrilled with 52-45? Yeah. You're thrilled in April. You're probably happy in May. You're unhappy with it by June 15th. That's
right.
The point when your mindset has gone from 52-45 would be great to, oh, that's a bad finish. So I think it all has to be taken in consideration there like that. But, it's a team that lost 106 games. I think that once you get so deep into a new season, you almost, especially when they're this bad, you almost block out the previous year. But I don't think it should be lost at any point that if they play the White Sox to start the second half. And then I think it's Diamondbacks, and I can't remember who's the third series. But they have a fairly light schedule to open things up. They have a 9-game homestand, I believe, to start the second half. If they go 5-4 on that homestand, they will have exceeded last year's win total.
Right.
That's not to say that you shouldn't hold teams to the standard they've set themselves to when they started 15 games over 500. But that's the key takeaway to me. That's the important thing. And they have, the strides they've made have been just massive.
They are indeed been massive. There's no question about that. That was bad grammar, but I think you got the gist of it. I guess the disappointing thing, and you hope it's just a blip, but not an indication of maybe a little fade or overuse or whatever. But the thing that was disappointing is you get the big performance from on Friday night, and then you've got your two best lined up in two of your best lined up in Seth Lugo and Brady Singer, and Singer probably next best as far as ERA is concerned, and they both just weren't very good at all.
Yeah, they both had tough outings in different ways, but also kind of similar ways. I mean, Seth Lugo talked about he had a really tough time getting, for some reason, he was having a hard time getting the ball glove side. And when you and against the lineup with 7 lefties, he's just leaving the ball over the plate. And in that ballpark, you have to get into lefties because that's the way that you're going to keep them in the big part of the park in Fenway. And so he struggled with it, and it just was one of his like 4 or 5 rough outings this season. A bad timing on it, for him personally, for the Royals, because I think it probably I don't know if this has been announced yet, but I'm guessing Tarek Skubal is going to get the All-Star start, and if Lugo had gone 6 shutout, I think it would have been tough to keep him off that starting mound. So tough for him. And then Singer, same thing. He couldn't get the ball inside the lefties. He just couldn't get the ball there. There were a handful of sliders, but everything else, save for 2 pitches, was out over the plate in a way, and he got beaten. And it's just plain and simple. That's what happened. And on Saturday with Lugo, it didn't really matter what he did because Cutter Crawford just carved up the lineup. Sunday, the Royals lost 5-4, and Singer gave up 4 runs in 2 2/3. So, I hate the idea that you can guarantee, if he had pitched better, they would have won. Well, maybe this may not happen if this didn't happen, but it was a close game, and Brady Singer took him out of it early. So that pitching performance probably cost them a chance to go to the All-Star break in a playoff position.
And it started well on Sunday, just bringing it up because I thought it was funny. I mean, Adam Frazier starts the game off with a home run on maybe the worst pitch I've ever seen.
Brutal.
I mean, dead center fastball, 95. I mean, center cut. I think if they put a crisscross on the box, the ball would have been right at the X.
Yeah, you may not have seen the dot because it would have been. It was. And look, Frazier did what he's supposed to do with it.
Exactly.
And good on him because sometimes that doesn't happen. I mean, the Royals over the years have kind of struggled with middle in a weird. It's hard to say they struggle because they've hit like 512, but the league has hit like 630, and they've been below league average on that. So. Nice to see it, but and I think I wrote that. How do you lose a game where Adam Frazier hits a leadoff home run? You can't do that. You just can't lose those games.
Right. That's funny. So let's go to some of the other issues here. They make a trade and they bring in Hunter Harvey. And this is a good acquisition. There's no question about it. He throws harder than anybody got in the bullpen. He's instantly the leading strikeout man in the bullpen, all that stuff. They paid a price, though. I mean, I'll give the Nationals credit because they get a compensation pick at today, the 39th pick, or maybe it was yesterday. I don't know which one.
It was yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, it was yesterday. And they, get the supposedly second best prospect in the Royals organization, or at least rated by some that high. So the Nats did a good job, but the Royals get a live arm they need.
Yeah, no, I mean, both teams benefited for sure. The Royals gave up a lot for a reliever. Now he's not a rental, so they have him for next season, which means a number of things. One, they could move him, and if they do, whatever they get back, you have to consider in the trade. But two, they've got him for next season too. Maybe he's their closer next year because maybe he's their closer this year, honestly. But it's an interesting move because, like you said, Caden Wallace was the number 2 prospect on MLB Pipeline. I had him number 4 in the organization to start the season. He had a good start to the year, had the oblique injury, and then he actually really tough luck. He was on a rehab assignment, and got hit by a pitch that broke his rib. And so he's out another 4 to 6 weeks. That's just he didn't do anything wrong. He just got hit in the wrong spot. So it's kind of a lost year for him now. But I like Caden Wallace. I think Caden Wallace is a decent prospect. But as and maybe this is people who hadn't seen him because it's all about recency bias for a lot of people. But and even scouts. But I talked to a scout, 2 weeks ago about Caden Wallace, and when I'd heard, let me back this up. I'd heard a couple weeks back that the Royals moving Garcia to second, Michael Garcia to second, might be them in the market for a third baseman, which made me start to think about third baseman in the system. So I reached out to one of my contacts and I said, "Hey, what do you think about Caden Wallace? Am I wrong on him? Is he not as good as I think?" And his response was, "He's a fringe player. He's a utility guy who doesn't play other positions." And I thought that was really interesting, and I don't know that I completely agree with that. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion, so it's whatever, it's fine. But I think he's maybe a little bit better than that. I think Caden Wallace is not an impact player. And it's not to say that you should just trade anybody who's not an impact player, but I think that when you can get somebody